to correct any mistaken impressions, I am not a health addict taking a brisk walk before breakfast to get my juices flowing. I merely went down to the corner to pick up the morning paper. That's where our newsboy throws it. Naturally, I have discussed the matter with him, and he's given me a satisfactory explanation. He says it would be unethical for him to throw the paper up on our porch because normally we don't have a puddle there.
Almost ready, John?
Yes, dear.
Don't forget, tie and jacket.
Yes, dear. You know why? The tie and jacket? We have a new maid. I'm being presented to her at breakfast. I don't think either one of us is expecting very much. Maids have never been known to get excited about cartoonists. And I have found statistics to prove that there are only 18 women in the United States of America willing to do housework full-time. Between them, they are afflicted with 426 ailments, which make it impossible for them to bend, lift anything heavy, wash, dust, or even show up on Monday morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Daddy.
Good morning, John. Is your hair combed? The new maid is waiting.
Oh, yes, dear. I even dabbed perfume behind my ears in case she's expecting more than salary. In addition, maids are sometimes strange. A handy word that may help me escape a lawsuit.
John, please straighten your handkerchief, button your jacket, and don't say anything funny.
Step into my world, and welcome to it.
John, please don't just sit there moping. She'll hear you.
A mope isn't something that can be overheard, Ellen. And I just don't understand why we have to make such a diplomatic function out of a simple introduction. Maid, this is husband. Husband, this is maid.
Mrs. Simpkins is a little sensitive, and I know she'll feel a lot better if she knows we're all happy and well-adjusted.
Okay. I'll try to fake it.
Happy, happy. Hello, good morning, Mrs. Simpkins. I believe you already know Lydia, and this is my husband, Mr. Monroe.
It's an honor to meet you, sir. Oh, what a lovely tie you're wearing.
Oh, thank you. It seems to be one of those ties without a label.
Well, it's very nice. And you have such a lovely home here.
Yes, we like it.
This little daughter of yours, so bright, so well-behaved.
Yes, we like her, too.
And I truly admire this neighborhood. People seem to keep their property up real nice.
Yes, they certainly do.
Mrs. Simpkins, I believe we're ready for you to serve now.
Oh, I have your orange juice and coffee right here. And I brought milk for the child. I hope that's all right.
I don't care. I'll drink anything.
Lydia, milk is fine.
I'll go get the rest of the things right now.
Ellen, this orange juice is full of seeds.
Well, just use your spoon and pick them out, dear.
Well, I thought our juicer was warranted against doing that sort of thing to us.
That's the electric juicer. Mrs. Simpkins prefers to make juice by hand.
I prefer not to strangle on seeds. That's why I spent $29 for a juicer.
John, please, try to enjoy your coffee.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry, sir. I thought I'd picked all the eggshells out once it come to a boil.
This is boiled coffee?
Yes, sir. You've got to let it come to a boil. That's what makes the ground sink to the bottom and the eggshells come to the top.
I think that's the Archimedes principle, Daddy.
Well, it is not mine. Didn't you see the electric percolator on the drain board?
Yes, sir, but it wasn't plugged in, so I knew you didn't want me to use it.
Ellen?
Now, John, it's perfectly simple. Mrs. Simpkins didn't want to take liberties with the appliances her first day with us.
Oh.
Thank you, ma'am.
That's perfectly all right. Oh, Mrs. Simpkins, would you please bring in some toast?
Toast? Oh, heat it up.
Well, toasted. You know, toast.
Yes, sir. I understand.
Ellen, is there something that you'd like to tell me about that woman before you go off and leave me alone with her for 3 days?
Excuse me, wouldn't I be better off outside?
Yes, thank you, dear.
Well?
Well, it's nothing really. She's just afraid of electricity, that's all.
But how could you hire someone like that?
Because she has a lot of good qualities.
So have I. But where would we be if I were afraid of pencils?
She's an excellent housekeeper. She gets along beautifully with Lydia. But if you're going to place toast above diligence and sensitivity...
Now, you are starting to talk like a woman, and I forbid that.
It's just terrible. I don't know what to say. You put the bread in the oven like you wanted, but it must have been turned up too high, and maybe it burned all the toast.
Now, it's all right, Mrs. Simpkins. You go on back in the kitchen and pull yourself together. We'll get along fine.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I'll make this up to you someday, sir.
John, she explained to me that she had a close friend who was electrocuted by a toaster several years ago, so naturally...
Electrocuted by a toaster?
Yes. The woman stuck a fork down inside when the bread wouldn't come out, and it touched a wire.
You can't be electrocuted that way.
You certainly can. If you're standing on a wet floor in your bare feet.
Uh-huh. But you must admit that if you're wearing shoes and standing on a dry floor, your chances for survival are excellent.
Yes, but a toaster can't hurt you if you don't use it. Now, that's Mrs. Simpkins' viewpoint, and I do try to see her side of it.
Ellen, you are a warm, understanding person. Now get rid of her.
All right. I'll try to put her good qualities out of my mind. Her devotion to anybody who shows her a little kindness. I'll just go out and tell her that you want me to kick her out.
She won't.
Please, Mrs. Simpkins, I'm sure he doesn't hate you.
I can spot hatred in a person. I spotted it in my late husband the minute we got married.
Mr. Monroe understands now how you feel about electrical things. So just give it a little time. I'm sure the two of you will get used to each other.
What do I have to get used to about him?
Well, nothing really. He gets a little emotional sometimes. All writers are like that.
Mr. Monroe is a writer?
Yes, for a magazine.
Oh. I had a friend work for a writer once. He had fits. Whenever he wrote something that didn't suit him, he'd sit down the typewriter and howl like an animal.
Well, Mr. Monroe doesn't do that.
He mashed in his wife's brains with a hammer. He wrote for Ladies' Home Companion.
Oh, well, Mr. Monroe doesn't write for them, so you're perfectly safe.
Yes, ma'am.
And anyway, you probably won't see much of him while I'm gone. He spends most of his time in the attic.
The attic?
Yes, he works there. Please, Mrs. Simpkins, just try not to disturb him, and I'll see you when I get back on Sunday.
Oh, I certainly hope so.
Is she fired?
Don't be silly, John. Of course not.
See? What'd I tell you?
the train was on time. The family's on its way. And here we are with the place all to ourselves.
Yes, sir. That's the way it is.
I won't interrupt you. I'll just go upstairs.
Yes, sir.
Oh, Mrs. Simpkins, we do own a vacuum cleaner.
I know.
Well, if you're afraid to plug it in, I'll be glad to do that for you.
Oh, no, sir. I couldn't put you out that way. And besides, I enjoy sweeping.
No, you see, you're turning this hall into a dust bowl. I prefer you use the vacuum.
Oh, I'm afraid I could never bring myself to do that, sir. I'd always be seeing her in my mind.
Who?
The lady in Kansas.
What lady in Kansas?
The one who got her shoelaces sucked into the vacuum cleaner. It took her feet right out from under her, and the poor woman lay there on the floor helpless till they came and found her half dead from starvation.
Well, nothing like that could ever possibly happen here under any circumstances. You do understand.
Yes, sir. This happened in Topeka, right after the war. I'm sorry to bother you, sir.
What is it this time, Mrs. Simpkins?
It's about fixing dinner, mister. The stove is broken.
What do you mean?
Oh, the pilot light, it went out.
Well, light it again.
Oh, a close friend of mine knew a lady in Cleveland who tried to light a pilot once.
And?
And they found her dentures in one of the suburbs.
I see. Well, I'll make it easy on both of us. I'll fix my own dinner, and you can have the evening off.
Yes, sir. I'll take a bath.
Fine.
Yes, sir. Would you mind turning the heater on in the bathroom for me?
I'll be right down, Mrs. Simpkins.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
She can't float. She's on her own. It really was an excellent omelet, but I find that periodic fasting is a stimulant to the creative process. That is a bat that flew in here. Now, this may seem cowardly, but I happen to know there is nothing that will turn a peaceful bat into a killer quicker than a burned omelet. Operator, I want to talk person to person to Mrs. John Monroe in Poughkeepsie, 555-9038. I don't care. Use any area code. Just hurry. Hello, Ellen. John here.
Yes, John, what's wrong? Are you sick? Have you hurt yourself?
Oh, don't be silly. I'm just lying down, wondering what's new in Poughkeepsie.
Not a thing, John.
Well, there's something new here. It's it's a bat, as a matter of fact. It's flown into the room.
Well, just ignore it. It'll find its way out again.
Ellen, I don't mean to alarm you, but actually they are vicious. They get in your hair and bite your head. Bats are not just birds, you know. They're mammals.
What's wrong with mammals? All of our friends are mammals.
That is irrelevant. Our friends don't come over here and fly all over the room.
Well, it's probably frightened. Just ignore it. It'll find its way out or go to sleep.
It doesn't look sleepy, but I'll give it a try.
Get out, old bat! Or one of us does not live to see the sun!
Hello. I surely hate to put you people out, but there's a man throwing a fit in this house.
Oh, Mrs. Simpkins.
Oh, don't touch me. I beg of you, mister, don't touch me.
Don't be childish, Mrs. Simpkins, for heaven's sake. A bat flew into my attic. I chased it downstairs. I thought it might have flown in here.
Nothing's been in my room except you.
I beg your pardon. It was just a reflex action.
You wouldn't touch me, would you?
No, I wouldn't touch you.
Somehow I believe you.
Well, I'm most appreciative.
Now, if you'll excuse me.
Oh, Mrs. Simpkins, I didn't know you were in here.
Yes, I'm here.
Well, I don't see any cause for you to lose any more sleep. Why don't you just go to bed?
I couldn't do that, sir. I'm scared to death.
I've been meaning to speak to you about these unreasonable fears of yours.
Yes, sir.
Well, I didn't mean now. It's getting very late.
Yes, sir.
Well, what's so funny?
I was just picturing what Mrs. Monroe would think if she knew we were here together late at night with me only in my gown.
I gave you my word, Mrs. Simpkins. Now, I'm not going to lay a hand on you.
I know. It's just what would people think?
People would think that I ran in here because I was afraid of that bat.
I don't think so.
Well, they'd be right. I was afraid out there. But the will to master that fear is what ultimately separates the men from the boys. And, of course, the women from the girls, too.
Yes, sir. And just listening to you explain it, makes me feel very small.
Mrs. Simpkins, I'm about to put my money where my mouth is.
For I'd be everlasting beholden to you, sir.
The bat has been vanquished.
Truly, sir?
You have my word. Be assured it's perfectly safe for you to go back to your room now.
Oh, I swear no one's ever risked his life for me before, sir. I certainly will never forget it. Good night, sir.
Good night.
Well, what else could I do? The woman was in a panic bordering on hysteria. Besides, that bat will find its way out of the house eventually. Ellen promised me it would.
Hi there.
Ellen, what are you doing here? Your train was supposed to arrive tonight.
I decided to take the early one so Liddy could get a good night's sleep before school.
Oh.
John, did you miss me?
Oh, sure, of course. Things have been pretty dull around here. Just work and sleep.
Well, something had an effect on Mrs. Simpkins. Do you know she just made toast in the toaster without my even asking?
Did she really?
She said it was the example of courage you set that inspired her. What did she mean?
Well, I demonstrated to her that it was possible to conquer fear. That bat scared her to death.
Oh, that reminds me, John, that darn bat was down in the basement when I went down there a while ago.
The bat's in the basement?
Not anymore, John. I chased it out with a broom.
Well, I suppose it was bound to leave sooner or later.
Dear, why don't you take off your hat and stay a while?
Oh, of course. I guess I'm getting forgetful in my dotage, or maybe it's just that I'm glad to see you home.
That's very sweet, dear.
Besides, it's getting kind of warm now. No need to wear one anymore.